Hello everyone, Alistair Gold here. Another good week for Tottenham Hotspur. This is becoming a bit strange now. I kind of got into a bit of a run of kind of having to moan a little bit, but not going to do that today. Another really positive on the whole performance at the weekend against Palace, in a game which could have been quite tricky. We saw what they did against Manchester United. It could have gone that way, but it didn't. It was really good, and of course, it was the Kane and Bale show. It was wonderful, and as I've said before, there's sometimes where I feel really privileged to be able to be inside the stadium when I know all of you guys and the fans can't. There are some days when I feel like I'm doing a real chore on behalf of everyone, but this was very much the former. Watching Gareth Bale kind of getting back to the Gareth Bale everyone hoped for, and Harry Kane absolutely refusing to be usurped at the top of the pecking order at Tottenham Hotspur. Yeah, it's very cool. I have to admit, I feel very, very fortunate and very lucky to have been in there to see, some of the finishes, some of the patterns of play, just watching some world-class players doing what they do. It was superb. So, it's quite interesting, actually. When you look at the home form for Tottenham, they've got 24 points from 14 games, which is second only to Manchester City, who obviously level above everyone at the moment. That kind of sounds like, Spurs are quite dominant at home. But actually, if they were to win at the Emirates in the North London derby at this coming weekend, they would actually have exactly the same record away. They'd have 24 points from 14 games. But it's just away from home. Other teams have been having better seasons. I think currently, obviously they've only played the 13 matches and the 21 points. I think currently there's about 6 teams better than them with their away record. And that seems to have been the key. It's just wrapping up a few of those away victories that Tottenham haven't been able to do. They've probably, you could say, they've been quite consistent at home and away. But other teams have just had that little bit extra bite away from home, which is why Tottenham are playing catch-up at the moment. But they are catching up. They are. Obviously, we don't want to go overboard and say, that's it, they're back in the race, because they're not yet. It's 3 matches. I said, I think a couple of videos back, Tottenham Hotspur, Jose Mourinho had to win these 3 matches. They went out and did it. Fair play. And they scored, if you include the Europa League game, I think it's something like they scored 13 goals and conceded 1 across the 4, I think it is. So absolutely fair play. They've taken a very difficult situation. And, I've seen the usual. Every time you get this, people go, oh, it's only Burnley, it's only Fulham, it's only, Crystal Palace. But all of these teams have had big results against big teams. I'm using the word big quite a lot there. But yeah, they have, obviously Fulham then going to Liverpool and winning. Palace have upset Man United. Burnley have had some big results. I think they beat Liverpool as well, didn't they, this season? I know some people say, oh yeah, but Liverpool losing to everyone. But it's still Liverpool. Whatever you want to say, it's still Liverpool. And I think, those 3 teams can cause problems for anyone on their day. Especially, I think probably as a former Spurs man in Scott Park, I'm so happy to see Fulham turning things around, because he's clearly a talented young manager. Everyone that knew him within the club when he was working with the under-18s at Spurs said he's going to be a very, very good manager. And I think you can see he's just developing the players, and it's clicked for him and the team exactly what's required in the Premier League, because, to come in and take them straight to promotion was great, but we know the Premier League's a whole other ballgame. But this isn't about Fulham today. I'm not going to go down that route. We'll mention them briefly in the match, obviously, on Thursday night, but it's about Tottenham. And it's good. It's good. It's going back in the right direction. That's what we want to see, And I thought it was really interesting as well was that when Palace scored the goal back through Benteke just before half-time, I kind of had a similar thought to what Mourinho actually vocalised after the game. And he said, kind of there was a part of me, it sounds silly to say, but was happy that Palace scored just before the break. And that's purely because of what happens to Tottenham. And this was Mourinho saying this. I wouldn't say I was happy, but I kind of felt, oh, okay, actually, it will do what the intentions are. In that Spurs, notoriously, go 1-0 up. Second half, if they're 1-0 up at the break, they sit back, they naturally sit deeper, and they cause problems for themselves. It doesn't seem to be a Mourinho thing. To be fair to him, he's picked it up a lot of times, and the players as well. I think Lloris has said it. I think someone else said it as well. I can't remember who it was. Maybe one of the defenders said that for some reason, I think Kane actually said it as well, that for some reason, the players naturally start falling deeper and deeper on the pitch, feeling they have to protect a lead rather than going out there and kind of getting more goals. So Mourinho said afterwards, I felt that when that goal went in, that we'd had a little bit of a lull in the game and that we had to come out for the second half and really go for it again. And that's exactly what happened. I think it was within 5 minutes, I think Bale had scored Spurs' second. So it's funny, isn't it? It almost happened at Craven Cottage on Thursday night. 1-0 up at the break. The Spurs kind of went into this rubbish cruise control, which doesn't work for them. It just about did on Thursday night, purely because a bit of an iffy, although correct by the rules, handball ruling by VAR. But yeah, they just kind of, you see them have these weird things. They've done it. It was last season as well, where they have these not terrible, but real flat periods in the middle of matches, and then eventually they wake up right at the end, and sometimes that's too late. So yeah, it was really weird saying it, but actually that goal before the break kind of did what it was meant to do, and it kind of gave him a massive kick up the backside, I guess is probably just the best way to say it. But let's start talking about players. Gareth Bale. Gareth Bale was fantastic. It was quite interesting. There was a point in the match where I remember turning to a colleague in the press box and saying, he's absolutely dominant again. He's absolutely running this game. And it was almost at that point, that I'm not saying he heard me or anything, but Harry Kane just absolutely kicked up a notch. And there's kind of, they've got this lovely kind of, it's like competition / partnership going on where they've just kind of, in one sense, trying to be better than the other one, but on the other hand, very happy to set each other up. It's not a rivalry that's built on greed. It's a rivalry that's built on driving each other to be better. And Bale, just from the first few minutes, he cut inside from the right and he did this little kind of switch to feet, or foot to foot even, to get past two players in the box, and he crossed it for Son, who headed at the keeper, which, could have been his first assist within a couple of minutes. I think it was about 6 minutes in. Then 25 minutes in, obviously, he's making his perfectly timed run into the box, and Kane found it was superb. I think that's one of those that Kane made look easy, but that low ball across to Bale was it had to be perfect for the keeper and the defender not to get there. It really was excellent. And obviously Bale slammed it home. Then there was another chance just before the break when he cut inside and curled that ball in for Reguilon to slice wide. Then, obviously, 5 minutes in the second half, his goal, which he started, watch that. He wins the ball back, spreads it out wide to Reguilon. Reguilon crosses it over. Bale goes in, but it's over his head. But then as soon as, he's like a whippet, as soon as Kane heads it back, he's reacting quicker than anyone else to nod that ball home. And he came off, I think, with 20 minutes or so to go. It was exactly what Bale needed to do. And I think he said it after the game as well. You can just see his confidence, but also his sharpness. He's reacting to things so quickly now. He always, as a player back in his Spurs days and at Real Madrid, had this ability to just be switched on that a little bit quicker than everyone else. Which, Kane's very similar and Son's like that as well. And it kind of just gives you that half second before everyone else realises what's going on. And he was phenomenal. I mean, it's now 10 goals in... I've written it down somewhere so I didn't forget it, because I knew I would. 10 goals in 22 appearances and 5 in his last 6. This is what we all hoped would come. He admitted his body needed time. It needed time after 2 years of very little football. And Mourinho, as he put after the game, psychological scars he felt Bale had. And I've heard a few people within the club have used that expression as well, that he was kind of inhibited in the way he played. It was just this fear of what might happen. And to be honest, we're all worried. Every time Bale goes down on the pitch, a bit like Kane and his ankle, you do fear, oh, crikey, is this going to be the one? Is he going to be out for another few games or whatever? But at the moment, he seems to be being able to manage it because, as Mourinho said, it's Bale who will make the decision on whether he plays or not in each game. And to manage 3 back-to-back Premier League games within 7 days, or 8, is it? No, it's exactly 7 days. That's exactly what Bale would have dreamed of in the last 2 years, and Spurs, when they got him, that he'd be able to get to this stage where he could do it. And again, you've got to wonder whether Mourinho's management of him has worked. He got a lot of flack for not playing him enough, but actually, I've seen silly things about he should be playing 90 minutes on Sunday as well. No. You don't have a 31-year-old who's played 3 matches in 7 days, push him to the limit over 90 minutes. You don't do that. It's just that was an odd comment. I can't remember. It was maybe Soon. Someone on the Sky panel. I just thought that was really odd or Keane, someone like that. I don't know. To be honest, this is the thing. After a game, everyone says to me, oh, did you see what Souness said? And did you see what Roy Keane said? And I didn't, because very fortunately, I'm at the game, so I don't get to see any of that. I'm just me in an empty, quite quiet stadium. Can only hear really the players and the coaches. But yeah, Bale. I want to talk about the whole next season stuff, because I'm going to probably make myself slightly unpopular here with some people, but I've noticed there's been a few reports today saying that there's no option for Spurs to have a second year. How do I put this delicately? Well, I can just say what I know. That's probably the best way to put it. Obviously, at the time, I reported this, and I kind of checked into it again today just to confirm, and I'm still led to believe it is the case that Tottenham do have essentially what's a first option on a second season loan for Spurs. So they have the first dibs on taking him again. And from what I understand, it's on the same terms as this season, which, I think if I remember correctly, was roughly around 40-45% of his wages, which is terrific. It's a great, it's a really good deal. The decision hasn't been made yet. There's a lot of season to go. As with always, you've got to kind of weigh up everything. Bale right now is absolutely smashing it, and this is the Bale that you take for a second season. But obviously there'll always be fears about any injuries that come in the months ahead. So they'll take a bit of time over it. The other thing to take into account, that Spurs financially are really struggling. They're not the only ones. I think probably other than a couple of clubs in world football, every football club is absolutely stuffed right now with very little income from what they would normally have. Reduced TV stuff, having to pay stuff back on that as well. No crowds. So obviously Bale would still be coming in as pretty much essentially the top earner at the club, as he would be then 32 as well next season. So all of that needs to be taken into account. The flip side to that is, if the Gareth Bale right now continues and you get this phenomenal player until the end of the season, it kind of becomes a no-brainer in that even if you don't have really the financial means to really do it, you know that if the fans come back, I mean, imagine Bale on this form, the stadium would be full every week to come and see Gareth Bale. The merchandise, everything, the shirts, anything to do with him would absolutely sell off the shelves. So it would kind of balance up in that respect. So yeah, again, it's not to do down the work of any other journalists or reporters, because everyone has different sources, and you can only say what kind of you understand as a journalist. That's always the way I've done it. Never look to put down any other journalists, because I literally don't know anyone that I work with who I see in a regular beat with Tottenham who are not top journalists. They're all superb. But yeah, just from what I understand, Spurs have that decision to make as the first option on having Gareth Bale for a second year of his loan, which obviously would then take him to the end of his contract. And as I understand, it is on the same terms if they want to take it. But obviously Bale and Spurs have to agree with that. And yeah, we'll see what happens. But fingers crossed he continues doing what he's doing, because it's phenomenal right now. It's brilliant to watch. And that Spurs want to keep him. Jonathan Barnett, his agent, has said in the past, he would love to stay at Spurs for a second season if it all suits all parties, and everything's going well, because it's the club that he kind of dreamed of coming back. Well, not his dream, but it's a club that's in his heart, I think is the best way to say it. So yeah, that's what I understand. I've noticed I've been busy this morning, but I've obviously been seeing my Twitter mentions have been pinging with, what have you got to say about this, and all this sort of stuff. Again, this is not against any other reporter or journalist. They've all got their own information, but just what I've been told. And it just confirmed what I was told way back when he first signed. So fingers crossed that all comes to pass and it happens. What I also want to talk about is the width Sunday. I'm losing my days. This is the thing with having a game or a press conference almost every other day at the moment with Spurs. You kind of lose where you are. So on Sunday's game, what I thought was really interesting was that they had to use the width more. And the reason for that was the absence of Tanguy Ndombele. So Ndombele had his turn to rest. Mourinho said it will be Højbjerg's turn to rest on Thursday against Dinamo. But with Ndombele out of the team, you're losing that ability with Nola Celso right now to have someone who drives through the centre, takes a couple of players, opposition players out of the game, and then you can throw through balls through. Instead, had Winks and Højbjerg. I thought Winks had a good game. I thought he did everything asked of him. But the thing with Winks is obviously he's not on Dembele. He's not going to play the same role. So what you had was you had two players that were naturally inclined to sit a little bit deeper. And that meant you had to use the width, which was no bad thing. And it probably was tactically thought of. I'm sure it was. Who am I? Mourinho and his coaches are going to think of all this. But with Palace being very organised, essentially you kind of had to draw them out of position. And I think you found with the return of Reguilon, especially, Doherty had moments where he tried to get forward. Maybe his instructions were less so than Reguilon's, but Reguilon had more licence to bomb on. And obviously, I'm not going to slate Ben Davies. I'm not that kind of guy. I do think he's a very solid, different kind of left back. But I feel that with Reguilon, you get an attacker and a defender all in one. You get the whole package. And his pace means that he can get into the box and get on the end of crosses. He sliced that Bale cross wide in the first half just before the break. Second half, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, he got in at the far post and had a deflected shot that went into the side netting, which for some reason was given as a goal kick. But yeah, he has that ability. And obviously, he was up there to cross in for Kane to head across, for Bale to knock in. And I think that really worked, especially second half. Spurs just really stretched. It's a big pitch at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And having the protection of Winks and Højbjerg meant that the not only Reguilon and Doherty, but it just gave Bale, Lucas and Son a little bit more licence to not have to sit back all the time. They could crack on. And it worked really well. It did. Like I say, first half, good moments, and then they went a little bit flat. But second half, it was just tearing Palace apart, really. And it probably could have had a few more goals. But I just thought that was really interesting. It just shows you how necessarily, obviously, not seeing on Dembele in the starting lineup is, oh my God, he's been so good kind of thing. Maybe slightly dipped in the last couple of matches, but still doing the job asked of him. But having him not there isn't the end of the world, and having a different kind of player, because it just means you play in a different way. And that's the beauty of football, is different systems, different tactics, different ways of, I think the expression is different ways of skinning a cat, which is a horrible way to put it. But you know what I mean. It's different ways of attacking the same problem or a different problem. But yeah, no, it was really interesting to see. A very different way. As I touched on him, I just want to talk a little bit about Matt Doherty. I just feel so sorry for the guy. Do read it. I put out an interview he did that was in the Matchday programme, which is a really honest interview where he said, look, I know I've made mistakes. I know it's taken me some time to get up to speed, but I feel I'm starting to turn the corner now, and I feel a little bit sharper in my reaction. A bit like Bale, my reactions are sharper on the pitch, and I feel I'm really adjusting to being a right back again. He says I've done that for Republic of Ireland. It's not alien to me. It's just he's played as a wing back for so long for Wolves. It's getting into that kind of mindset on a consistent basis. And he said, I think my defending has improved a lot. My defending is coming on. And Mourinho used the word after the game, which upset some people, that he felt that Doherty was impeccable in his defensive efforts. And I think he said there was a little bit of improvement for his attacking, which is true. But he said defensively, he said he thought it was impeccable. And I mean, that got the usual what it gets. There's certain players that people just decide they're rubbish, and they see something and it doesn't change their mind. And a lot of the replies were, but he left Milivojevic, sorry, I can never pronounce his name, so much space for the cross, it was rubbish. I must completely, in interest of honesty, I actually thought the same when I first saw it, but then I really watched the replay very closely. The good thing about Spurs is we all have a little screen to watch. And if you watch it a second time, you can realise what actually happens really isn't Doherty's fault. So what happens is, Doherty's down the right, Van Aanholt's bombing in, the Palace left back, and he then suddenly cuts inside. So Doherty has to follow that run. He has to follow the guy who's suddenly coming into a really dangerous position. As he's doing that tracking, coming inside, he suddenly spots that Milivojevic, I'm going to pronounce it right, Milivojevic, is making a run from the midfield out to the flank. And ordinarily, and I'm sure they probably would have done this in their analysis, I think today they were going to do that because they had Monday off. They would have, whoever was in midfield, I don't know if it was Winks or Højbjerg, I can't remember now, one of them should be tracking a midfielder coming out to the left flank. A midfielder going out to the left flank and then the left back coming inside you're leaving Doherty with two men caught in absolute no man's land because a midfielder has not tracked the run from the centre of the pitch out to the flank. So you can see, if you watch it again, Doherty actually turn and essentially think, oh crap, no one's helped me out here. I've got to now turn back. But by the time he's turned back and gone out to Milivojevic, it's the ball's in the box and Benteke scoring. You could look at different elements of it. You could say Sanchez perhaps was slightly sucked out as well because of that problem, and then that meant Benteke just got away from him. You could maybe say that Alderweireld could have been tighter because there was no one really behind him. Or like I say, whoever the midfielder was, again, I cannot remember the life of me, whether it was Winks or Højbjerg, who was over that side. I've seen different people saying different opinions on which one of those two it was, but Doherty was just absolutely stuck with two men, and that's what's going to happen. But I think on the whole, if you look at it, he had Eze and Zaha a lot to deal with. Neither player really made an impact in the game. I know Zaha, when he eventually had to be forced to come inside, hit the post, but I just feel sorry for him. I think there's people still saying how rubbish he was, but I actually thought defensively, I thought he had a good game. Like I say, I still don't believe the goal was his fault, and he's played his part in recent games in, the defence tightening up. Yes, he's still got a lot of work to do going forward. He got an assist, albeit a very simple kind of tap into Kane to have that wonderful shot at goal. Could have done better with his crossing, certainly. But I feel that the first step for him was tightening up the back at the defence, and Mourinho's really happy with him. The trouble is when you don't like a player or you've decided that he's not good enough, you see praise as, he's doing it to motivate him. I genuinely don't think he is. Mourinho told me after the Fulham game, he said, I was so happy with him. And then, obviously, after Sunday's game, said he was impeccable in defence. I don't think he's just blowing smoke up his backside. I think he's genuinely really happy with the improvements he's making. We kind of always forget it. Players need time to adapt. They need time to very much settle in a new team, new system. Doesn't matter how old they are. Doesn't matter where they've come from. Doesn't matter whether they've even played in the same league. I mean, you look at Sissoko's first season. Look at Bale in his early Spurs days. He didn't get going into his second season or so. But yeah, there's his second season. Might have even been third season. People kind of they want instant satisfaction, instant success. You look at Ondembele, and I know it's a different country, but he's come in and it's taken him a season or so to get going. I just don't think we have a lot of patience. And I include myself in this as well. I'm sure I'm guilty of exactly the same things, but yeah, we've got to be more patient with players, and we'll see. I think similar with Davinson Sanchez. I thought Davinson Sanchez had another good game. Like I say, maybe argue for the Benteke. He could have been tighter to him. That could be put down to him. But I did feel that he made a lot of big interceptions. And you can see it's confidence. It's all about confidence. And obviously confidence is lowered when you have a bad performance, or the media, including myself, in that kind of knock your performances, or the fans get on your back on social media. And I think, you see it happening with Steven Bergwijn. Steven Bergwijn has, in the last few days, deleted all of his Tottenham stuff from this season off his Instagram account because it's just frustration there. We know he got abuse before as well, and he hasn't been playing in recent matches. I think he'll get minutes on Thursday night, but it's just about... I don't want to be patronising. I don't want to say supporters should support and all that sort of guff. It's not my place to say that. It's very much fans can support a club in whatever way they see fit. But I just believe... massive cliche, but patience is a virtue. I think you see a lot of players that become a success, they've had that patience around them, whether it was the staff, the coaches, fellow teammates, whatever. They've had that patience and then they've become stars. Nobody, or very few people, are an absolute phenomenon straight from the off. It needs time. So let's see how it goes with Matt Doherty. But I do think he's getting better and better with each passing week. Who else? Harry Kane. How can I not think about who I want to talk about next? Harry Kane. Harry Kane is an absolute joy to watch right now. It's just about, same with Bale, not to the same degree, but keeping him fit, giving him a bit of a rest now and then. I think he got 10 minutes at the end of the game the other day. But just the stats, people say stats can be misleading. They're not with Harry Kane. They're phenomenal. If you look at it, this is a guy that's one of the most feared goal scorers in Europe, in the world. Yeah, he's tops the Premier League assist charts with 13. He's got 13, so that's 2 more, I think, than Kevin De Bruyne, 3 more than Bruno Fernandes and Jack Grealish. So De Bruyne, Grealish, Bruno Fernandes, 3 of the most lauded playmakers in the Premier League. Harry Kane has been more creative and set up more goals than they have. That's phenomenal. So that's 13 goals, but that's just assists. And I mean, just going on the assist theme, only Eriksen with 15 and Anderson with 14 have had more assists in a Premier League season for Tottenham. They were midfielders. Kane is a striker. And, he's got so many games left. He should surpass both of those as well, those figures. It's just phenomenal. I mean, when you look at it as a total in all his games, all competitions, he's been directly involved in 40 goals in 36 matches, which is 24 goals scored and 16 assists. The man is a machine. I cannot stress it enough. He is a machine. He's incredible. And that first goal, I mean, obviously, like I've said already, the low ball for Bale had to be so perfect. It was fantastic. And then obviously the cushioned header across. I think a lot of, if we talk about potential greed in that situation, many strikers would have headed that ball at goal, keeper saved or it went inside netting. Kane cushioned it across goal for Bale because he knew it was the better option. And then his goal, that was right out of the probably Kane and Bale playbook. Doherty knocks it inside and he just looks up and curls it. There's no debate of whether it was meant to be a cross. It was nothing. Everyone just knew that's a shot, and it was glorious. Guaita, the Palace keeper, not a chance. It was phenomenal. And I think that's what I love about Kane as well. Is my hero growing up was Gary Lineker. It was Gary Lineker, and then it became Teddy Sheringham. But Gary Lineker was, he very rarely scored outside the box. I think for Spurs, I remember a goal against Man United. I think it was probably one of the rare ones. But mostly, he was a poacher in around the box. Kane is just this ridiculous hybrid of everything. Not only the playmaker and the poacher, but also a guy that can score from anywhere. Again, very privileged to have been out in Singapore. Was Singapore, wasn't it? To see him score from the halfway line. Was it against Juventus? I think I've absolutely gone out of my head. I just remember the goal. He scored from the halfway, and he scores plenty of goals from outside the box and the edge of the box. And this was just an absolute nod to the talent and awareness the guy's got. He's phenomenal. And then his second goal was about that Son and Kane link-up, getting up the pitch, having him nod the ball across, cushion pass across, and he heads it in. A little word on that as well. Not to be outdone, Son either. I thought that was lovely that on the night where Bale and Kane could have probably completely stolen the headlines, Son and Kane, it's almost like you kind of feel that Son's probably a little bit jealous of this bromance that's forming between Bale and Kane. But still, in those final minutes or so, gets the... it's not quite final minutes. It was later in the second half. Gets the 14th combination between the two this season, which means they got a new Premier League record, beating the 13 that Shearer and Sutton had way back for Blackburn. Kane will smash records every single season. He really will. And I thought that was lovely that Son kind of had that little thing. Son obviously didn't have as good as a game as Kane and Bale, but that's the beauty of having the quality in that 3 now, is that you can afford for one of them to dip slightly. And when I say dip slightly, he still had a good game. He just wasn't quite on the ridiculous levels the other two were. And, it could be the next game that Son and Kane are phenomenal. And Bale, I mean, I didn't feel Bale against Fulham was particularly great, but they can kind of now allow for someone to dip slightly because of the extra quality elsewhere. So that was great. Wanted to give a shout out to Lucas Moura as well. Lucas Moura I thought was superb, as someone that gives him a little bit of criticism because I feel his talent is better than what he produces sometimes in the end product. I think the last few games he's been superb that he started against Burnley and Palace now. That number 10 role suits him. He said a slightly dubious comment. He said in an interview yesterday, something about it allows me to touch more balls. I think we get what he means. Just being on the ball more often and getting more of the play and being more involved. Whereas sometimes when he's out on the right, he can drift in and out of games, and then when the ball does come to him, he might mess it up. And his pressing was everything on Sunday. It was his pressing that got the ball back and released for Kane for the first goal for Bale. There was another moment where he won the ball back and he went on a real run. I think that was the one he got maybe clipped. Certainly went down the edge of the box with another Kane free kick. That's literally the only chink in Kane's armoury right now is the free kicks. He's kind of like, I know he hit the bar, the woodwork against, was it Man City? But yeah, you've got Gareth Bale on the pitch. I know he might have even not been the right side for Gareth Bale, but Harry's free kicks are not great. It's like literally that's his kryptonite almost right now. But Lucas, another really good performance, and I think that's lovely that you've now got a real battle going on between him and Dele Alli, who Mourinho said afterwards, Dele played really well against Fulham, really good. But yet Lucas, I think he's going to constantly, I'd imagine Dele will start Thursday and then Lucas maybe in a North London derby. And I thought that was great. I thought Eric Lamela came on and did well. Again, that ball to Son for the Kane goal in the second half, he flighted it. I love it. It's a bit like the Bale, not same kind of ball, but the way the ball is the same as Bale's 50-yard pass for Kane against Burnley. Just nothing looks better than a pass where the defender's either head or foot just can't quite get it and it reaches the person. I love those. It's a bit like when they hit a shot and the keeper's fingertips can't quite reach it. But no, that was a lovely ball from Lamela. I thought he came on and did well. And it'd be interesting, Lo Celso potentially able to come onto the bench on Thursday as well. And Spurs suddenly, from all of us kind of being a bit like, oh God, what happens next kind of thing, where are we going from here? There's suddenly a lot of players confident again, and a lot of players with a lot of quality. Every week I'll have people asking me why player A, B, C, whatever isn't on the bench. I've had Roden, Bergwijn, why aren't they getting on the bench and stuff like that? It's purely because of the players that are there. Especially in the attacking areas. Bergwijn hasn't been able to get on the bench. They had to lose a defender to kind of get him on there. And you'll see more. Like I say, Højbjerg will be on the bench on Thursday. There'll be more rotation. Bergwijn still, I think, just needs a goal. I think that's all it is. He's got the talent. He just needs a goal. And as I said before, a little bit of patience. But no, it was really good. So, looking ahead, like I say, they had Monday off. Mourinho told me that. I asked him a question about something after the game, and he said they got Monday off. And then it's back to work, obviously. The tyres have been switched in Europa League now, so they'll play home on Thursday night against Dinamo Zagreb. What I would say, anyone underestimating what a tough test Thursday night is and saying that you can rotate everyone, you need to kind of look a little bit into Dinamo Zagreb. Zagreb have the top of the Croatian league with a game. They're clear with a game in hand. They've they're unbeaten in Europa League and they've won the last 6 in a row. They scored a lot of goals. They score a lot of goals and they don't concede a lot either. They had a tough 2 legs against Krasnodar, which they came through. Russian teams are always a tough kind of element to surpass. And, they are going to come with a lot of confidence, a lot of belief in their patterns of play, a lot of stability and consistency in the way they play. And if Spurs take their foot off the gas at all, or Mourinho goes in there really weakening his side, you're going to find out they're going to get a bit of an upset on their hands, and which is going to make the second leg even more difficult. While yes, there's a positive of not having to travel before the North London derby, the downside is, excuse me, is that the second leg is obviously away from home, albeit without fans. I'm pretty sure there's not fans yet back in Croatia, but still, an away leg's obviously always going to be tougher. And then the North London derby, which Spurs back in form, Arsenal, stuttering slightly as they have been. There's a gap, obviously, between them in the table. I can't remember what it is. It might be, is it 8 points, perhaps? There's a part of me that is always dreads matches, especially at the Emirates. Spurs still haven't won there in the Premier League since that 3-2 and Yunus Kabul's goal, but there's a little bit of excitement, I think, about seeing Gareth Bale back for his first, hopefully, involvement in North London derby. I think he was an unused sub in the home game. Just seeing him, hopefully, in the form and confidence he's in right now and what he could do against Arsenal would be wonderful. And Kane, as he is, excuse me, talk too much. It'll be really interesting to see how Mourinho goes, because obviously against Arsenal in the home game, went for that more defensive outlook, soaked up the pressure and hit him on the break, which may mean one of the attacking players is sacrificed, I don't know, or the likes of Lucas has a more defensive role than he normally does. But of course, there's a part of me that would love to just go and see Spurs go there with the attacking talent they've got and absolutely can just fly at them. Sorry, I've totally talked myself into a dry throat now. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what North London Derby brings. Hopefully for Tottenham and a continued momentum that they've got building up right now. Because I think if that probably, yes, Arsenal aren't in the greatest of form themselves this season, but I think that for any naysayers that would say the last 3 games beaten against teams that they should have beaten, blah, 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 I think a North London derby away from home, all bets are off, aren't they? Form goes out the window, and it's a case of doing the job. And if Spurs can do it, I think that really puts them in the right direction. So there you go. So Mourinho press conference tomorrow. Hopefully I will be able to speak by then. And just trying to think what else. Obviously Thursday night's match. So I shall talk to you later in the week. Apologies if I've missed anything off. I kind of rattled through that a little bit shorter than my normal videos. So if I missed anything, I apologise. But I'll try and, if I can talk, cover that in the next one. But yeah, so as always, stay healthy, stay safe, look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye.